When it comes to reconnecting with your Italian roots, understanding the concept of Jus Sanguinis is key. Italy has one of the most inclusive citizenship laws in the world, allowing descendants of Italians to claim citizenship by descendant. And let's be honest, who hasn't dreamt at least once of dual citizenship, especially if the second one is Italian? Whether you're dreaming about an Italian passport or access to the entire European Union, this guide will walk you through everything US citizens need to know to claim the Italian citizenship through Jus Sanguinis, which is a Latin term to say that under certain circumstances and if certain requirements are met, you could get your Italian nationality by right of blood. I have to tell you, it is as complicated as it sounds, but that's what this guide is for. We're here today to break it down for you, to help you understand, first of all, if you're eligible to apply, and second, how to actually proceed to be able to start your application process and get your Italian passport. Ciao a tutti and welcome back to the Italianforawhile channel, your go-to destination for all things Italy. If you haven't done it yet, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more tips and tricks on how to make the most out of your experience in Italy. And now let's go back to the reason why we're here today. First of all, we have to say that there are several ways in Italy in which you can get Italian citizenship, and we already made a video with a complete overview of each one of them. Today, instead, we'll dive deep into the citizenship granted by lineage, or right of blood, as it is called. But let's start from the basics. Here is a breakdown of everything you need to know. First of all, let's see together what is actually Jus Sanguinis. So imagine your great-great-grandparents were Italian. Even if you were born in another country, you would still be able to get the Italian citizenship. There are several requirements that you have to meet before applying, and we'll see them together in a bit. But basically, once you complete the whole ITER, you're gonna get your Italian passport, and you're gonna be an Italian citizen. You'll have the same rights as any other Italian. This practically means that you could live, work and travel all across Europe without needing a visa. Plus, you'll have access to different social economic benefits in Italy, you'll have the right to vote, and you'll have access to the public services in Italy. Well, now that we have better defined what the Jus Sanguinis is, let's see together who qualifies for Italian citizenship by descent. This legal concept allows children's, grandchildren's, and even great-great-grandchildren's of Italians who live abroad to qualify to get the Italian citizenship. This is only the case provided they meet certain criteria. And here it's where it gets tricky, guys. Indeed, the process requires more than just proving that you have Italian origins. You will have to meet specific legal requirements and be able to prove that the lineage is unbroken. So basically, you'll have to prove an unbroken connection with your Italian ancestor. Because there are several requirements to be met, to understand if you can apply in the first place, it's vital. To qualify for Italian citizenship through Jus Sanguinis, you have to meet three main legal requirements to prove a clear and continuous bloodline to an Italian ancestor. Let's see them together. Eligibility criteria number 1, direct bloodline. You must prove a direct, unbroken lineage to an Italian ancestor who either retained their Italian citizenship or had the right to claim it. So the chain of descendant must be uninterrupted, meaning that no ancestor in your bloodline relinquished their Italian citizenship, even if they moved to another country. Eligibility criteria number 2, naturalization of ancestors. Your Italian ancestor must not have naturalized as a citizen of another country before the birth of their child or your next in line ancestor. If they did, they would have lost their Italian citizenship, breaking the chain of eligibility. This is a crucial step to determine because you have to prove that citizenship passed seamlessly from one generation to the other. Eligibility criteria number 3, unification of Italy. The ancestor in your lineage who is furthest back must have been alive after March 17th of 1861, the day when Italy became a unified nation. This is because prior to this date, Italy did not have a clear and unified concept of nationality or citizenship. So this is why only people having Italian ancestors born after the unification can apply to get Italian citizenship. Furthermore, once analyzed these eligibility criteria, there are 2 key limitations to be taken into consideration before starting your application process. Understanding these limitations is key because it will immediately make you understand if you will face some obstacles if you try starting this ITER. So let's see together these 2 limitations to eligibility. Limitation number 1, naturalization before June 14th, 1912. If your Italian ancestor naturalized in another country before this date, they are unable to pass on their Italian citizenship to their descendants, even if their children were born before they took this step. This is an historical cutoff date that marks the point at which Italian laws regarding naturalization and citizenship began to change. This is because before 1912, Italian laws did not allow dual citizenship, meaning that if an Italian citizen were to naturalize in another country before that day, they would lose their Italian citizenship. However, in some cases, children might have retained their citizenship if they were born before their parents naturalized in the other country. Now let's move on to limitation number 2. Gender restrictions. Prior to January 1st, 1948, Italian women were unable to pass citizenship to their children. This means that if your claim is through a maternal ancestor born before this date, you cannot inherit Italian citizenship through her. However, it's important to notice that starting from 2009, Italian laws have allowed applicants to challenge this restriction, and many applicants have been able to succeed in doing that. Of course, this particular case requires additional legal steps, but you just know that it's a possible path. As you might have noticed so far, this path is not always straightforward, as eligibility depends on several factors, such as the nationality status of your ancestors, the date of their birth, and whether they're naturalized in another country. So I know you may be a little bit confused at this point, and for this reason, that's what we did. To help you better understand if you could actually qualify to get the Italian citizenship by descent, we collected for you, and we'll explain in a bit, the main categories of eligibility. These categories are 11 in total. I know, it's a lot, but don't get scared, we're gonna break them down together. Category number 1. If your father was an Italian citizen when you were born and you never renounced to your Italian citizenship, you qualify for Italian citizenship through Jus Sanguinis. This, of course, applies regardless of whether you were born in Italy or not. Category number 2. If your mother was an Italian citizen at the time of your birth and number 1, you were born after January 1st, 1948, and number 2, you never renounced to your Italian citizenship, then you qualify for Italian citizenship by descent. If you were born before 1948, your path to citizenship may require legal intervention in Italy. Category number 3. If your father was born in your home country, but your paternal grandfather was an Italian citizen at the time of his birth, then you may be eligible for Italian citizenship. In this case, it's important that neither you nor your father have renounced to your right of Italian citizenship. Category 4. If your father was born after January 1st, 1948, and your paternal grandmother was an Italian citizen at the time of his birth, you may be eligible for Italian citizenship. Like Category 3, this lineage is traced through the paternal side, but it is tied to your father's mother's Italian citizenship. Category 5. If your mother was born in your home country and, first of all, your maternal grandfather was an Italian citizen at the time of her birth, and, second of all, you were born after January 1st, 1948, you may qualify for Italian citizenship. The additional condition in this case is that your mother must have been born after 1948, year in which women in Italy were finally allowed to transmit their citizenship through their sons and daughters. Category 6. Your mother was born after January 1st, 1948, and your maternal grandmother was an Italian citizen. If your mother was born after this date and, first of all, your maternal grandmother was an Italian citizen at the time of her birth, and, second of all, neither you nor your mother ever renounced your Italian citizenship, then you could qualify for Italian citizenship. Guys, I know it's tricky, but that's what regulations are here for, and that's why this guide is here for. So no worries. Let's move on to category number 7. If your paternal father was born in your home country and your paternal great-grandfather was an Italian citizen at the time of his birth, you could be eligible for Italian citizenship. Here the key is that neither you nor your father nor your great-grandfather must have renounced to their Italian citizenship. Category 8. If your paternal grandmother was born in your home country, your paternal great-grandfather was an Italian citizen at the time of her birth, and your father was born after January 1st, 1948, you may qualify for Italian citizenship. This case is similar to the previous one, so category number 7, but it involves the paternal grandmother, plus the condition that your father must have been born after 1948. Category number 9. If your maternal grandfather was born in your home country, your maternal great-grandfather was an Italian citizen at the time of his birth, and you were born after January 1st, 1948, you may qualify for Italian citizenship. This is another case of tracing lineage through your maternal side, with the additional condition that you were born after the 1948 law change, allowing maternal transmission of citizenship. Category number 10. If your maternal grandmother was born in your native country, your maternal great-grandfather was an Italian citizen at the time of her birth, and your mother was born after January 1st, 1948, you may qualify for Italian citizenship. Again, also here, the key factor is the maternal line and the law change in 1948, allowing the mother to pass along the citizenship. Category number 11. If your paternal great-grandfather was born in your home country and your paternal great-great-grandfather was an Italian citizen at the time of his birth, you could qualify for Italian citizenship. This applies as long as either you, nor your father, nor your great-grandfather have renounced to Italian citizenship. Okay guys, this is the end of the general overview of these 11 categories. Here we have a disclaimer for you. Note that these are just the most common ones, because there are way more than just 11 cases. And there could be other factors affecting your eligibility for the application, such as potential renunciation of the citizenship or different interpretations of the law. So, if your case doesn't seem to follow into any of these categories that we just listed, it could still be worth considering a professional evaluation, as there may be other nuances that could support your application. But if you do fall into one of these scenarios that we've covered together, then you're good to go, and you could actually start your application process. And now, to ensure that you meet the requirements, and that especially you submit the correct documentation, let's see together a clear breakdown of all the steps involved. We'll cover the preliminary research needed, all the required documentation, and the actual application submission. Step number 1 is to do preliminary research. There are mainly 3 sub-steps to do here. First of all, trace your family lineage. Then identify key events. And lastly, check dual citizenship laws. Let's see each one of these sub-steps more in detail. So, trace your family lineage, which means you have to gather detailed information about your direct Italian ancestor, including their full name, their birth date, and any events related to their naturalization, if applicable. Then step number 2, identify the key events. So, which means you have to investigate any naturalization event or changes in citizenship that could affect the chain of eligibility, which, remember, have to stay unbroken. So, for example, we've seen that if an Italian ancestor became naturalized in another country before their child were born, this could affect the chain of citizenship, which could be broken. And step number 3, check the dual citizenship law. Verify that your current country allows dual citizenship. We can tell you that in the US, dual citizenship is allowed, but there are other countries where this may not be the case. Now we can move to the second step, the one concerning the collection of all the documents. So, once you have confirmed your eligibility, the next step is to collect all the necessary documents to prove your Italian ancestry. Also here, there are 3 sub-steps to take into consideration. The collection of the vital records, of the naturalization records, and the consideration of apostilles and translations, if needed. Let's see them together more in detail. For what concerns vital records, you will need birth, marriage, and death certificates for each ancestor in your direct lineage, starting with yourself and working backward to your Italian ancestor. These records are needed to confirm your family relationship and prove your connection to your ancestor. Moving along, we have the naturalization records. If your Italian ancestor naturalized in another country, you must provide proof of their naturalization status or documentation showing that they never naturalized. These will help confirm whether the Italian citizenship was passed along or lost. And lastly, apostilles and translations. If these documents are issued outside of Italy, keep in mind that they must be legalized with an apostille and translated into Italian by a certified translator. These will ensure the authenticity of your documents and will grant their acceptance by the Italian authorities. And now, last but not least, step number 3, the application submission. With all these documents at hand, you're finally able to submit your application. It's important to notice that your application process will vary depending on where you live, as you could submit your application either to the most appropriate Italian consulate or directly to Italian authorities. So basically, if you live outside of Italy, your application must be submitted to the Italian consulate that has jurisdiction over your area of residency. Each consulate has its own process, so check with them. There may be specific requirements in addition to the ones we covered together. If you live in Italy, you can apply directly through the prefecture in your area. This is typically a faster option compared to applying from abroad. But since we just talked about it, I'm sure you may be asking, so is there a way to actually apply from Italy? And the answer is yes, absolutely. And actually, this is often the case. We have lots of students who went through this process while being here in Italy. Many applicants believe that taking this journey in Italy could make it smoother and more enjoyable. But how can you actually do it? Well, let's see it together. To begin with, you must establish residency in a comune in Italy and apply for a permit of stay at the questura before your 90-day Schengen limit expires. This requirement allows you to remain in Italy legally while your application is under review. Once you start the process, there are several key steps you must follow. But before covering them, let me give you one tip. Since, as you can see, the whole process takes lots of time and energy, always make sure to double check that you collected all the required documents. This will help you avoid any delay. And of course, if you're having a hard time going through this process, consider consulting with a professional. Okay, and now let's see the steps that you would have to go through if you apply from Italy. Number 1, residency verification. After registering at the comune, local police will verify that you live at your declared address. Number 2, declaration of presence, o dichiarazione di presenza. If you entered from another Schengen country without receiving a passport stamp, you must submit this declaration at the questura within 8 days of arrival. Step number 3, permit of stay application. The permit typically takes 2 to 6 months to process. It is initially valid for 1 year and can be renewed if necessary. Since the citizenship process takes longer than the standard 90-day Schengen limit, you must apply for a specific permesso di soggiorno, which is called permesso di soggiorno in attesa di cittadinanza. So, the permit of stay while waiting for the actual citizenship. You can apply at the questura. This is done as any other permesso di soggiorno in Italy, so through a kit that you can collect at the poste. After submitting your application, you will receive a receipt, which will serve you as a proof of legal stay in Italy. You will also have to attend a fingerprint appointment at the questura. And lastly, step number 4, returning the permit. Once your citizenship is granted, you must return the permit of stay to the questura, as you will no longer need it. At this point, you'll be finally able to apply for an Italian passport and an ID, so a carta d'identità, finally completing your transition to Italian citizenship. If you decide that this is the path that you want to choose, and so you want to apply to get your Italian citizenship while staying in Italy, then it is the right time to present you our programs and show you how they can be the perfect fit for you while staying in Italy for this process. Our programs provide the perfect opportunity to immerse yourself in the culture and to learn the language and to really live like a local. Our programs will offer you support in settling in Italy, an immersive language and cultural experience that will make you feel more at home, and a structured and friendly environment to join while you wait for the procedure to be done. This could also be a nice way to realize whether once you get your Italian passport, you want to live in Italy permanently or you just maybe want to come and do back and forth. Many of our participants that did their application while staying in Italy with us use this time to build connections, improve their Italian, and most importantly, truly embrace their heritage before becoming officially Italian. If you're interested in this option, I really suggest you to have a look at our programs. I'll make sure to leave the link in the description of the video. And with that, guys, I would say that that's really all. I hope that you'll find this guide useful and that we managed to at least break it down for you in a clearer way. I know that it's a hard process, but trust us, if you follow step by step all the requirements, you'll be one step ahead. If you found it useful, please remember to like the video, comment it, or just share it with a friend. And if you have any question regarding this topic or any other topic, please make sure to comment. We'll read your questions and answer. Until next time, ciao!